When I first saw Dune, I didn't like it. The characters, emotionally distant. The desert planet it's set on, about as stimulating to watch as a garden slug. How did this movie make hundreds of millions of dollars at the box office? How did it even manage to get made at all? So I took my questions, and I turned to the great compendium of human knowledge to answer them, otherwise known as Reddit, and answer them Reddit did. One forum in particular shined above all the rest. Their insights were so simple, yet so profound, and you know what? They actually made me appreciate the movie a lot more. What makes Dune so great? It's for mature audiences, and it's got a massive budget. But what exactly does that mean? What makes a sci-fi movie considered mature? It can't just be because of gore or graphic violence, because Dune doesn't have any of that. It's only rated PG-13. And why is Dune, with its planetary budget of $165 million, so special for being that way? Today, I'd like to explore those two ideas. This isn't just interesting because it reveals a big reason why some people like Dune so much. It also hints at something deeper lacking in movies today. There's a demand for more serious sci-fi with an epic vision behind it that's not being met, and if it were, perhaps it'd be easier to get people to go to theaters, whose attendance numbers are about as low these days as the population of people on the desert planet Arrakis. So with that all being said, let's make like a giant sandworm and dive into things. In the modern movie-going era, many popular high-budget sci-fi films all have something annoying in common: jokes. Now, to be clear, I don't hate jokes. They help define characters, they keep the viewers interested, and heck, who doesn't love a good laugh? It's even the reason why I try putting some of my own into these YouTube videos I make. And I don't want anyone putting in the comments that they're surprised to hear that. What I do hate, however, is a specific type of joke, and unfortunately, it's become a sci-fi cliche. It goes a little like this. Our heroes are in danger. There's a pause before things are about to get crazy, which is right where we get something. A sarcastic jab, a self-deprecating one-liner, a quirky statement to get a chuckle out of the audience. It's like some weird law of physics. Impending action equals time divided by joke quantity. From Star Wars to Jurassic World movies and to the guiltiest party of all, Marvel films, this type of joke is about as much of a promise as the fact that good guys will win, and that Samuel L. Jackson will eventually show up. Let me show you what I'm talking about.
I have an army. We have a Hulk.
Right. Army.
They help the mosasaur hunt! They help it kill!
Well, that's discouraging.
So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first?
This type of joke undercuts the tension of what's going on. No matter how dire things may seem, no matter how close to ending the world appears to be, you can't take the movie that seriously, because it's not taking itself seriously. And the reason for its existence is strongly rooted in what I mentioned before. There's no one that doesn't like to laugh. It's a lot more comfortable to throw hundreds of millions of dollars into a movie you know people will like, because they'll have fun with it. It guarantees a return on investment. This is what's so special about Dune. It had a budget of over $165 million, which is comparable to movies like Doctor Strange and Captain America: The Winter Soldier, both of which weren't released until the Marvel Cinematic Universe was firmly well established. Dune was the first of its kind in the 21st century. Its only predecessor was the original, released in 1984, and its reviews weren't exactly stellar. There was a lot of financial risk behind this project, and yet it didn't play it safe by injecting humor everywhere, even in inappropriate situations. It does respect its own premise. It does take the universe it's bringing audiences into seriously. There's no sandworms rising behind unsuspecting characters, giving them the opportunity to say, "There's something behind me, isn't there?" When Timothée Chalamet faces off against a challenger in a fight to the death to win respect, he doesn't roll his shoulders at the beginning, flick back one of his luscious locks of hair, and utter something stupid like, "I'd say break a leg, but that sounds counterproductive. In this movie, people just say things a rational human being would, ones that live 20,000 years in the future, but even still, it's not the sort of dumb stuff that reminds you you're watching a movie. Take a look at the scene where the Atreides family accepts the assignment given by their galactic emperor to take care of the desert planet Arrakis at the movie's start. Oscar Isaac's character is practically on a stage with an audience before him, and not once does he break the tension with some kind of offhanded remark about how the ship descending from the sky kinda looks like Wheatley from the Portal games. But that's not to say the movie isn't completely without humor. Take a scene that occurs shortly after, where Timothée Chalamet's Paul and Josh Brolin's Gurney find themselves crossing swords in a private moment together. At the start, Paul remarks he's not in the mood. Gurney doesn't take no for an answer. He forces himself onto Paul, and the two embrace in a sort of dangerous dance. After he's gotten a few good licks in, Gurney remarks that Paul seems to have found his mood. It's not comedy gold, but it's funny enough, and it's appropriate for the scene because it's an informal one. The two are training. This isn't actual life or death combat. The only thing at stake is the furniture in the room.
That's rude.
But best of all, the humor doesn't overstay its welcome. Contrast this to another training scene found in 2008's Iron Man. When Tony Stark refines the suit of armor he initially built in a cave, he goes through a testing phase, and it's practically a conveyor belt of quips, gags, and faceplants to keep things as enjoyable for the audience as possible. It's basically a one-man comedy show. One last fun example I want to go over is when Oscar Isaac's character is about to die. He, Duke Leto of House Atreides, gets captured by a rival family and stripped naked to emasculate him. Lying there, injured enough he hovers between life and death, Leto doesn't use his last moments to whisper some snarky quip about how he's never felt so uncomfortable in his own skin. He says, "Here I am. Here I remain." Then he chomps down on this poison capsule in his mouth, which I'm sure was just absolutely delicious, and takes everyone in the room with him into the next life. Well, almost everyone. His final words are a message of defiance in the face of his own imminent demise, and that his legacy will endure, that he won't be forgotten. It's not comedic, it's Shakespearean, both eloquent and brief. And you've got to think about it a minute to really understand what he's saying. You're forced to have a thought. Or two. Dare I say it, there isn't even just one way you can interpret his last message. Perhaps he's not referring to his legacy, but his own individual spirit, his own persistent willpower to deal one last blow to his enemies, despite the fact he's got nothing. No guardsmen, no family to help him, no chair with decent lower lumbar support so he can look his killers in the eye. And the raw, disturbing imagery of him being naked also works to set a more serious tone. It's like that nightmare we all have about showing up to work in our Fruit of the Loom underwear. Fully realized, and those around him do nothing to help him because they're reveling in his weakness. It's utterly haunting. Now, let's compare that to a nude scene from an MCU movie.
And flick. Flick too hard, damn it!
But I didn't bring up this scene just to take a jab at the utter and complete missed potential that was Thor: Love and Thunder. I wanted to introduce the next way Dune projects immaturity to its audiences, in a way that's really bold considering its insanely high budget, through the power of pictures. What makes something you're looking at in a movie mature? After pondering this great question, and eating about 16 boxes of Junior Mints as I rewatched some old movies, this is the conclusion I came to. A mature visual is an image that serves the story, not your eyeballs. Consider Star Wars, which features heroes and villains swinging lasers of light at each other. Why is one side specifically blue, one red? Because they just look strikingly opposite that way. The choice of color isn't any deeper than that. Luke Skywalker got a green lightsaber because creator George Lucas thought it'd look better against the blue sky. Samuel L. Jackson got a purple lightsaber just because he asked nicely. They're designed to look cool, which sells toys, and that makes money, which is a great thing for studios, because the amount of dollars to make Star Wars movies is greater than the total number of stars in some galaxies. The Jurassic World franchise follows a similar vein with its dinosaurs and hundreds of millions in budget. No movie in that series can consider itself complete without a T-Rex striking a pose and roaring at the sky. Why do they do that? To look cool too. In reality, scientists aren't even sure if T-Rexes did roar. Instead, they might have made this low gurgly sound. That won't sell tickets. And I know I've been picking on Marvel a lot this video, but I can't bring this point up without mentioning the Avengers' costumed color schemes. Iron Man, red and gold. Hulk green, Captain America blue, Hawkeye and Black Widow black, Thor's got you covered with your silvers and grays, and a little yellow too. It's like looking at a pile of Skittles. Why is the Hulk specifically green? To look cool. Why is Iron Man red and gold? Because the fictional character Tony Stark thought it would look cool.
Tell you what, throw a little hot rod red in there.
Yes, that should help you keep a low profile.
Long story short, humans like pretty things, and expensive movies that want to sell a lot of tickets do their best to capitalize on that. But Dune comes with a $165 million price tag, and it wants to be colorblind. Because it's got good reason to. Its main setting is a desert planet called Arrakis, and let me tell you, if beige is your favorite color, then welcome to paradise, because that's all there is. Sand. Sand. Oh, what's that there in the distance? Why, it's a pile of sand. It's not exactly eye candy, but that's okay because Arrakis isn't trying to be pretty. It's trying to be a tool to help tell a story about the lengths people will go for power and control. Arrakis is supposed to look like the Sahara's more ambitious cousin. You'd have to want something insanely bad to willingly go there, and in Dune, that something is the most precious commodity in the story's universe. Spice. This spice is how people can travel to other planets at all. Without it, they'd be stuck on just one, like total losers, because what the spice does is it induces a heightened state of consciousness, and pilots need to take it so they can safely navigate interstellar ships between the stars. And Arrakis is special because it's the only planet you can harvest the spice from, so whoever controls the planet's supply controls everything. That's why they're willing to face the karma of humans using worms as bait for so long. Another visual I feel makes this movie more mature is how it approaches ship design. Take a look at the one that carries the family from their original home planet to Arrakis, called a Guild Highliner. There's no flashing lights, no rows of windows, no glowing warp coils. It kinda just looks like a gray wood ship floating out there in space. Compare it to something like the Millennium Falcon or an X-Wing fighter from Star Wars. These are the most iconic spaceships in sci-fi, and a big reason why they're so memorable is because of their appearances. In fact, the Millennium Falcon is so memorable that some people are convinced the Baltic Sea anomaly is a crashed UFO simply because it looks like it. The Falcon is scrappy, cobbled together with junk found from around the galaxy. X-Wing fighters have X-shaped wings. The ships the evil Empire flies are like sleek, polished company cars in comparison, and this uniqueness makes their toy figurines super collectible. Gotta buy them all. Now, let's take a look back at Dune. The Guild Highliner helps world build. It's very basic in its appearance, as if the thing was so difficult to construct, the designers couldn't be bothered to make it look pretty. In fact, they probably figured bridging the distance between stars is so hard, there's not anyone else out there to look at the thing anyway. Save that money for the space barf bags. And I personally love that in this fantastical space opera, Dune isn't loose with just how dangerous and big space is. But it doesn't just stop there, making sure to inform us that space travel is expensive as well. The sort of thing only the wealthy elite can indulge in. In the scene where House Atreides accepts their call to steward Arrakis, Stephen McKinley Henderson's character, Thufir Hawat, makes a comment that it's over 1 million units of their currency just to make the round trip for the announcement. It's a far cry from the opening scenes of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, where Duke Leto's doppelganger, Poe Dameron, basically hopscotches across the galaxy. All the ships in Dune are like this, big, bulky, mechanical monstrosities of technology that resemble mountains more than spacecraft, capable of carrying thousands of passengers, which they need to in order to make their trips economically viable. No one person would be able to afford traveling just by themselves to the stars. The cost of renting a Guild Highliner would just be too astronomical. But that's not the last way this expensive movie exemplifies maturity. The final point I want to explore is the film's thematic statement. Dune isn't just trying to say something simple that'll resonate with everyone easily. It's trying to impart a complex message about, well, growing up. A thematic statement is a universal truth about life. In the Jurassic World movies, the theme's pretty simple. Don't mess with nature. Nature wants you to leave her be. It's a pretty easily digestible idea that leaves plenty of room for exciting scenes involving dinosaurs digesting people. Star Wars has a pretty basic idea behind it too. Together, we're stronger. And this is shown through a farm boy, space pirate, and princess joining forces to destroy a crippled man's laser moon. Marvel's got this idea too with its superheroes teaming up. It's even their catchphrase. Avengers assemble. Easy themes easily connect well with audiences. things. Makes it so less people are scratching their head as the credits started to roll and more are buying a ticket to see it again. Or, in the case of Steve Rappel with Captain Marvel, seeing it 115 more times. But Dune at its heart revolves around a very cosmic idea that requires a grand perspective to truly appreciate. We get it most directly conveyed to us in the scene when Timothée Chalamet's Paul and Rebecca Ferguson's Lady Jessica are flying through a sandstorm. Things are looking pretty bleak. Their ship is damaged, visibility is zero, and a crash is imminent. And it's here Jessica recites a mantra to herself. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings obliteration. It's her attempt at grounding herself when she's literally got none to stand on. This perfectly aligns with the mystical vision Paul experiences at the same time, because he's inhaling a lot of trippy spice from the air. In it, he hears something else. The mystery of life isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience. You must move with the flow of the process. The statements each reflect the idea of discovery, that if you grow beyond your basic instincts, fear, anxiety, worry, and even what your senses are feeding you, you'll find clarity of thought. If you can't grow and you give into your basic instincts, it could very well kill you. In the aforementioned scene, they end up surviving by following Paul's insight, killing their craft's engines and riding the storm's natural currents. And Dune really wants you to know that this is the way, because all throughout the movie we see how the true power of the universe isn't guns, ships, or even armies, it's wisdom. When walking in the desert, for instance, Paul is instructed that you've got to take your steps a certain way, mimicking the sand's shifting patterns. Otherwise, the giant sandworms will detect you and come to say hello. It's exactly what Paul learns in his vision. You've got to move with the flow. That wisdom is also something Paul's father, Leto, understands too, as a result of his years of experience. If their family is to take control of Arrakis, he tells Paul, and tame the wild planet, they won't be able to rule through air and sea power like they did on their original homeworld, Caladan. They'll have to harness the power of the desert itself, and that means brokering agreements with the natives living there, the Fremen, not fighting, but working with them. Going with the flow of things. I'd even say that Timothée Chalamet's luscious locks of hair could be interpreted as a metaphor for this theme. If you want to be happy, you gotta let things go. Shave it all off, and you'll end up like Gurney.
Smile, Gurney.
I am smiling.
The spice itself is the most symbolic of all of this, and that's why I believe it's positioned at the narrative center. It's an enlightening substance. It allows you to see beyond the traditional five senses, to not just evolve as an individual, but as a species. It activates Paul's visions, and for the interstellar pilots, it's again what opens up the galaxy to them. It's what brings literal worlds of knowledge within reach. And that's what the first Dune movie ultimately spends $165 million to tell us, in my opinion. That if we choose to grow up as a species, to transcend our basic instincts that make us what we are, we can redefine our own limits. We can decide not just what we're capable of as humans, but even what it means to be one. And that's why Dune is the sugar daddy of sci-fi movies. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go snort every spice I can find in my kitchen cabinet, because it's time to do what Paul did on that harsh, dry, hotter than hell desert planet. Get baked.